Boker Tov, Chaverim, and it's time for another Heartfelt Haftarah. And our Torah portion this week is Re'eh. We're in Deuteronomy, and we're heading into the High Holy Days. And as has been true for the last 3 weeks, there is no intrinsic connection between our Haftarah reading and our Torah portion. That's because these are meant to be haftarot to console us as we prepare to improve our lives at the beginning of Rosh Hashanah and completing the process at Yom Kippur. It's not that you couldn't find connections between our Torah portion and our Haftarah. After all, what is human beings but animals that make meaning? So it's hardly impossible to find a connection, but the reality is that this has been done uh, regardless of the actual contents of the Torah portion. So what are we doing this time? We're doing Second Isaiah, the voice of empathy and comforting that appears from Isaiah 40 to 66. And we're going to be in chapter 54, verse 11 to chapter 55, verse 5. Now, this is a do-over. This Torah portion, this Haftarah portion, actually is used with the Torah portion of Noach, because of its opening line, "Oh, unhappy, storm-tossed soul." Well, kind of works for Noah. It's only about half of the Noah Haftarah portion, and it's selected because it has nice things to say about us and messages of God's love and support for us. And there are a couple of interesting things going on. I'm going to call attention to probably the most important one, which is that we again see one of the light motifs, or yeah, I think it's light motifs, Leit, light motifs of Second Isaiah, which is to refer to us, the Jewish people, as God's servants, God's witnesses. This repeats itself over and over again from Isaiah 40, and sometimes it's incredibly explicit. You are my servants, O Israel, my witnesses, O Jacob. But here the phrase servant and witness appears again, though not necessarily so specifying it. It's clear in context that God is talking to the Jewish people. And so, how do we serve God? By being God's witnesses, by testifying to Jewish values, the Torah, the belief in a better future. All of these things, when we witness to these beliefs and ideas, we serve God. So, that being said, let's see, is there anything else I wanted to call your attention to in this particular passage? Oh, yeah, there is also very common to Second Isaiah, kind of elusive messianism. In this particular case, it talks about how God made a covenant with David and that we carry forward that covenant. Now, this is complex because I think I've said before that the idea of an eschatological Messiah, a Messiah who will come at the end of history and fix everything, is not really a fully developed idea within the Torah or within the rest of Jewish biblical sources. What we do post-biblically is we connect a lot of dots and we create the notion of messianism as we know it today. But the tying together of the future with the restoration of the Davidic dynasty is part of Isaiah. And in this particular case, it actually does something else, and that is that at different points in Jewish history, what we mean by the Messiah has changed. So most of us are familiar with the concept of a single individual who will serve as the Messiah. It's part of Christianity, though we understand this Messiah to be radically different than the Christian understanding. We understand it to be a descendant of King David who will return at a pivotal moment and bring peace and order and harmony to this world. It's uh, it's a term we call the personal Messiah, but the fact of the matter is that's not the only messianic idea in Jewish history. Certainly, starting in the early modern era with the mystic Isaac Luria, and probably I could probably find a couple of medieval sources before that. The suggestion is that the Messiah is a collectivity, that the Messiah is us, the Jewish people, and even potentially all of humanity working together. And so this is the communal notion of the Messiah. It really has its roots in Jewish mystical thought, that each one of us could be or is the Messiah, and therefore all of us collectively are what is needed in order for the Messianic era to be realized. This underlies the more modern concept of tikkun olam, that we're all working together to make the world better. And as the great scholar of mysticism, Gershom Scholem, points out, there is pretty much a direct line between Isaac Luria's notion of the collective Messiah and Reform Judaism's ideology of the Messianic age. And Reform Judaism is not famous for its enthusiasm for mystical thought, but Scholem is right. We inherit this idea that we're all working together to achieve the Messianic era. And that's part of Reform ideology, and it's part of the rhetoric of Tikkun Olam. So you can read your Messiah as a single individual, or you can read it as a collectivity. Either one is very valid within Jewish tradition. We're always like a Chinese restaurant. You can pick one from column A or one from column B or two from column B or whatever. We have multiple ideas that we simultaneously hold on to that we think are valid. So anyway, there is a reference to the future and the covenant of David. But what I want to call your attention to is another element that occurs in here. And what it is actually about, really about Tikkun Olam, that is making the world better in this world, not in Olam Haba, not in the world to come, but in this world. As I like to say, we like to say that every verse in the Bible is equally important. And in the case of, say, Orthodox Jews or fundamentalist Christians, they may actually believe that to a degree. But the reality is that all religious traditions focus on certain key texts. We don't think they all stand equal. We think some things are more important than others. We think the Shema is more important than, and on the fifth day, God created. Christians are really caught up in Isaiah 7:14, even if they mistranslate it, and a virgin shall give birth. That's just a seminal text for them. And actually, this is a seminal text for us. And it appears in Isaiah, and it goes like this, 13. V'chol banich limudei Yehuda. Oh, boy, I misread that completely. I skipped a line up. V'chol baniim limudei Adonai v'rav shalom ba'anai. Okay, so what is that? It is, and all of your children shall be learned of the Lord or of Adonai, and great will be the peace of your children. Now, that's a future oriented, one could say messianic or culminating idea. And we love that verse. It's a promise given to us. On the other hand, Jews can't leave well enough alone. So we got to turn it into a pun, which is justifiable because, as you know, the original Bible is written without vowels, and without vowels, you can put in your own vowels and you can modify the meaning of a verse depending on the vowels you assign to it. So instead of benecha, that is your children, we read it as bonecha, which means your builders. All right. Nothing has changed in the actual biblical text. We just changed the vowels. Now, what does that end up being? So let me read to you the midrash that appears in the Talmud, the interpretation of this particular verse. And it goes like this. The prophet says, all of your children shall be taught of the eternal, and great shall be the shalom of your children. Rabbi Eliezer says, in the name of Rabbi Hanina, those who study Torah help to build peace in the world. This conclusion is supported by reading Banecha, your children, and instead pronouncing it Bonecha, your builders. Those who learn and teach Torah become bonecha, building shalom for your children. Well, that we've gone even further with that idea, and the idea that Jews are meant to be builders, that we don't tear things down, but that we make the world better, that we extend, revise, build upon, work towards stronger institutions and things, both physical and metaphysical. That is a key idea in Jewish tradition. It's a key idea in Zionism, where it was emphasized that what do Jews do? They come to a place and they build. And so building the land becomes a major theme in Jewish tradition. So, and it also notably makes a shift. It takes it from the future. Your children will know peace. Your children will know wisdom, and turns it into a present project. Your builders, and great will be the peace of your builders. So any one of us who contributes to making the world a better place shall know the peace that comes with that. And we are, of course, following the guidance of God by doing that. So the message is there is salvation to be had in this world, and that salvation comes from being a builder. By the way, that same passage and wordplay or pun appears on endless temple projects where we're building a new building or adding on or something like that. But the point of it is that if we build now to make a better world, then our children will enjoy peace in the future. And I think that's a signal Jewish teaching, and one that we should celebrate and honor. Well, that's it for this week. I look forward to talking with you next week.